Hello, this is God Hinkis. Welcome to the tutorial of ChordMaster. I'm going to show you how it works, and then I'm going to explain why it works and why it's a really good tool. It's available for free. If you want to leave a tip, I would really appreciate it. And don't forget to follow me on the different platforms as you discover them. I have a lot coming up. So, how does it work? ChordMaster is a way for people without any instrumentalist experience, without any ChordMaster is basically a way for you to explore chord progressions in a super intuitive and direct way, even without knowing anything about music, theory. And let me explain how it works. So you have here, what it does basically is that it maps your entire keyboard. It maps every single note on your keyboard into a chord. It starts with a basic chord. So middle C is gonna be a C major triad. If you go up, you have here So the way it works is that it maps your entire keyboard, and with each note on the keyboard is playing automatically a different chord. Now the way the chords are arranged are according to specific mappings that you can change here. The default one is recommended for modern music, pop music, and what it does is basically creates common chord relationships. So if you play this chord and you want to play another chord that fits to it, you can go either up or down, and the closest the note is to that starting point, the chord will sound nice. So you can position yourself in any point on your keyboard. Consider this like your home territory now. You can see exactly the notes that are being played, outputted here. So the way it works is basically that it maps the entire keyboard, and each note on your keyboard represents a different chord. Now, every 2 octaves will spread out the 40 will represent the 24 possible chords, and as default they are all triads. The middle one is C major. On the left side of C major, you will have majors. You will have minor chords. And on the right side, you will have major chords. And it works in the mapping is constructed according to closeness. So the closer you are to your starting chord, let's say I'm playing this, the closest chord to it will match. If you go all the way to the top, it will also match because you're reaching the higher octave. Okay, so the way it works is that you have the entire keyboard mapped with each key on your keyboard playing a different note. With each key on your keyboard is playing a different chord, and when you play another note next to it, it will play a chord that is matching that first chord. You have here different kinds of mappings, but I recommend using the default one. And each mapping creates different chord relationships. The idea is that if you want chords that sound close together and make sense together, even if you don't have music theory, you just play this one and then play the next closest one, and it's gonna sound nice. And like this, you can create things that sound very familiar. Now, if you want to go a bit more adventurous, you can just jump from here to here. You can do bigger jumps. You can also select the notes here and see which note plays which chord. And when you play the chord, you see here on the bottom which notes are being played and what is the name of the chord. Now, every time you play a chord, it shows here what type of chord it is, and you can change it. So right now you see it's a major chord, C major, without any extensions. Extensions are basically extra notes that we add to a chord. But we could change it manually by clicking here and saying, okay, I want it minor or a sustained chord. Sustained 4. This plugin is really cool because it also teaches you a bit of music theory as you're experimenting. And I can add some extensions. So let's add a 9th and a 13th. Now I have a nice complex chord. The last section here is the voicing. I can choose to spread it out more on the keyboard, or I can do inversions. If it's too high, I can lower it like that. And this is specific just to this key. So if I play the next key, it will be the default version, just the triad. Now, the really cool thing here is that you can click randomize all, and it will basically randomize all the chords in all the keys, but only in the sections of the chords that you want. So for example, I do not want to randomize the bass note, because then it would basically change the mapping. And the idea is that you can create more complicated or rich chords without changing the basic foundation of that chord. So you can choose what you want to randomize. Maybe you just want to randomize the type of the chord. Is it major, diminished, minor, sustained, augmented? Or if you want to randomize only the extensions or the voicing. For example, I actually like, now let me click reset. When I click reset, everything goes to the default triad chords, just the most simple 3 notes per chord. And I will switch off the voicing and switch off the random of the type of chord, okay? And let's see if I click randomize all, and you can say how much you want it to be randomized. When it's higher values, each chord will sound pretty wild. You know what? Let me first test it. I'm gonna randomize everything, and with a very small amount. Let's see, 5%. Now, so you see, for example, this chord now, it's a bit too high. I can invert it downwards. So now it's more in the same region. Let's say I reset all, and I'll increase the randomization amount, and I'm gonna randomize all again. It's a bit more rich, more jazzy chords. Let's increase the amount to be more extreme, and I randomize all. Ooh, now we're getting very jazzy, but we still have that foundation of the bass note. But another great thing here is that you can add bass, and what it does is it adds another lower octave of just the root note, just the bass note. That makes that chord much more. Okay, now let's see. This, for example, this chord is a bit sharp. I maybe went too far with the randomization. So I'll just tone this back down, and I'll click randomize chord, and it will only randomize this chord. Okay. Ooh, I like this. The idea is that with this tool, you can really find nice chord relationships instead of going by hand and writing notes, moving them up, moving them down, duplicating. All this work that often leads to chord progression sounding very strange, especially if you don't have music theory. And the thing is that most actual musicians that start from instruments and then go into music production, they have a leg up because they already have a map of chords, possible chords in their head, and they already have an intuition of what works with what. And for music producers, often, like me, like maybe you, we don't have that map in our head. So this solves it by giving you the map, giving you the territory, and by closeness relationship, you can already see what chords match with what. And then you can develop it further with the randomization or by tweaking by hand. And if you ever went too far and you just want to click reset all, it just goes back to the triads. Now let me increase the randomization a little bit, and I'll add the randomization for voicing, and I'll randomize all. Okay, now let's experiment a little bit. That sounds nice. Okay, this, for example, I don't like this color here, but I really like this, so I'm just gonna try a different note. Maybe I want to make it a bit lower. And maybe this one is too major for me, so maybe I want to spice it up a little bit. I'll just make it... This is too high. I'll add a ninth here. And just like this, with a few clicks, very intuitively, like you would maybe tweak a synthesizer. Have a very musical sounding chord that I developed on my own without needing to spend hours editing chords. And the best thing about it, I can just record it instantly here. And that's it, I have it. Okay, so that's mostly it. There's one more important thing that I forgot. Let me delete this. That you can humanize the chord. So this adds some variation in the timing. So it sounds more human. You don't have to have everything playing so strictly, all the notes at the same time. And you can also strum it. Going from, when you go in higher values of the strum, it starts from the low and goes to the high. If it's the other way, it starts from high, goes to the low. Ooh. Yeah. Even just these two chords, you can have fun for hours. Let's say, oh, this one I might want it a bit more minor. Let's try that. Oh. It just gives you a way more intuitive way to explore chord progression. And let me get into a little bit of the theory behind this, that you don't have to listen to this part, but I'm just gonna ramble a bit. As I was saying before, the musicians have already a map of chords in their head, and they can find it. The chords that work together well, they can find it fast because they have instant access to it with the muscle memory on their fingertips. And I think what makes amazing songwriting skill is not getting buried in the details. When you edit chords by hand and you enter one note, add something on top of it, another note in between, you listen to the chord, then you develop another chord. You have to all the time listen to the first chord, the beat plays, and then you listen to the second chord and the third chord. And it takes so much time, and every time you're editing, you're listening to one note at a time because you're clicking it and you're moving it, and then you have to re-listen to the chord again. Here, every time you listen to the things in context. That's one of the most important things when you're producing music. You want to catch that vibe quickly. And here you can develop chord progression in context quickly. Okay, so it's a really powerful tool. There's one more button here that squashes the octave, so it will always play no matter basically will ignore the spread and inversion, and will always play all the notes that you have in the chord into one octave, except for the bass note. That's just a little tip there for everyone that stayed until now. That's it. Thank you very much. By the way, this is part of a bundle of other MIDI tools made with Max for Live. And they all work amazingly well together as well, that are built for people that don't have instrumentalist skill in their fingers to be able to perform, improvise, and create in a way that's more organic and intuitive. Okay, so check them out. I'll make videos on each one. Probably gonna be in a link here on the video. That's it. Thanks for